You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and retirement is a scary topic. Planning for your retirement, all these things, and especially for women who, shocking statistic, is that 80% of men die married, 80% of women die single. And thinking about that from my own personal experience, family, etc., that is a very true statistic. And well, we're going to be talking with our good friend Arwen Becker. She's come out with a book. It came out during COVID, so we didn't really get to cover it much. But I think you might find it of value, male or female. It's called She Handled It, So Can You. And Arwen, great to have you on the show, back on the show. And anybody who's got a question or comment for Arwen, myself, just send an email to my personal address, kl@kerrylutz.com, and I will forward it off to Arwen. Arwen, the book, real interesting title. How'd you come up with that?
So thanks for having me on the show, Kerry. It's interesting. I was actually being interviewed just off the cuff for a women's video that we were thinking about putting out just for something I could use during seminars and things of that nature. And the producer asked me about my mom. And I started to talk about how between my dad and my stepdad, really the two of them combined couldn't provide for my family, our family financially. And so my mom did what millions of women across the nation do. She found a way to handle it. And so it was that has turned into this kind of mantra or rally cry, or really just something for me, because I see women over and over and over again who are in a position where there's nobody else. They're kind of the last woman standing, like the statistic you used at the beginning. 80% of men die married, 80% of women die single. So the likelihood that she is going to be left to handle it, whoever she is, just a woman, is extraordinarily high. So that's really how that came about. It's really something that I've seen my mom do. I've seen thousands of women that I've worked with continue to step up and do what's necessary to handle the situation that they're in. But I've also found that a lot of women just, they kind of avoid this topic of talking about finances until oftentimes it's either too late or it's just going to make life a lot harder. So that's why I wrote the book, hopefully to inspire women. That's the subtitle, an inspiring and empowering financial guide for women. So that's what I'm hoping to do. All
right. And everybody's got a book in them, as they say. Some people have a lot more than one. When you're like sitting down and you're saying, I got to write this book because I've got to tell people about my mom's experience, my own experience. What was the hardest thing about writing it?
I think it was really getting into more of the technical aspect of it, because when I set forth to write this book, it was to write a lot of these pieces more from a story perspective, because that's the way I teach. That's the way I run my women's events. I get really great feedback that women tend to learn better, those more, maybe just more boring or technical aspect of it. So to be able to find a great story that can craft an understanding that relates to required minimum distributions, you know what I'm saying? So I probably say that was a little bit more challenging when I had to really get into more of the technical aspect of how was I going to help teach this concept and help somebody be able to understand it who has no bearing or has never even heard of it, but how can I craft it more in a story? And so I'd probably say that was the toughest part for me more than anything, but I've had so many great experiences with so many women over my 21-year career. I certainly was not at all short of great stories to tell, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And life is all about the stories that we store up and share with others, for sure. And What's the one thing that you hope that your audience, obviously female audience, is going to take away from your book?
I want women to be inspired. I see it over and over again when I give events. Many women, and I don't want a blanket statement, all women, because this isn't an all women thing, but there's a really large segment of the U.S. population, because I talk to my counterparts and I train people, they're advisors that are all over the country, and there is a common thread. There's a section of women in our community that are not getting educated because how the industry in general teaches it falls short, it falls flat, it bores them. And so instead of pressing in and going, well, I'm going to just get past this and get the understanding that I need to be able to make better financial decisions, a lot of women just avoid it. Or they avoid it because they maybe got divorced after 25, 30 years, and now they have a lot of shame because they didn't have the background or the understanding of the basics of their finances. And so now they feel like they've made a really big mistake, and they're fearful of talking to somebody about it. It's kind of like avoiding the doctor, so to speak, because you just don't want to hear somebody preach to you that you've done the wrong things and now you're in this situation. So there's a lot of women who avoid that. And that is really the premise of this book. When I wrote my dedication page, it's dedicated to my mom, but actually the first woman that it's dedicated to, it says this book is dedicated to women who have handled it at some point along the way, to the women who have wondered, is it too late for me? Or will I be okay? For those who felt dismissed or talked over in the area of finance, to women who have felt a twinge of embarrassment that they don't understand this money thing or wonder if they ever will. And that is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to have a book that tackles financial concepts, but does it in a way that's very different than the average financial book. Again, as I said, it really is built in story and much more interesting than just telling the concept, putting in, some graphs and charts and things of that nature, which just a lot of times fall flat for a lot of women.
Yeah. So the average financial book you found to be ineffective for women in this situation?
I have, and it's not only my personal opinion. My good friend and mentor, David Bach, he's written 14 New York Times bestselling books, and his very first book that he wrote was Smart Women Finish Rich. He wrote it 20 years ago. It's sold over 1 million copies. And his publishers and many people in the industry said women will not read a financial book. And so, of course, he's proven that wrong. However, still through conversations he and I have now, he still has a lot of people who kind of go, women and money, and do they really have money? Do they really care? Are they going to pay attention? And so they kind of poo-poo this whole thing, but yet women need to be the predominant focus because they are going to be left handling their finances at some point. They hold more wealth now than men do. They're the largest segment of the U.S. population. They're going to inherit 2/3 of the many trillions that are going to be passed in the next 20 years. So we need to make sure that we're reaching them in the way in which they hear, not in the way we think that they should hear.
Hey, so is there anything you wish you had put in the book that you just couldn't get in there or you didn't think of until later?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Lumina Gold, ticker symbol LUM on the Toronto Venture and LMGDF on the OTC, is yet another of legendary mining investor Ross Beaty's Lumina Group. It's advancing the largest primary gold deposit in Ecuador. The resource is estimated to contain 16.7 million ounces of gold and 2.2 billion pounds of copper. At just $7 US per ounce gold equivalent, it trades at an incredible 13% of its net present value. More good news is on the way with an updated PEA study expected in Q2 of 2020. It has unparalleled infrastructure. There's grid power to camp with plentiful, inexpensive hydropower available. It's close to 2 ports and is just 8 kilometers from a paved highway. Water is plentiful. It's at low elevation, and the closest community, which is very supportive of Lumina's effort, is just a 7-kilometer ride. With all this going for it, it's likely to follow the typical Ross Beaty formula, which means big returns to shareholders. Find out more and sign up for notifications at luminagold.com. That's Lumina, Lumina, gold.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
I can't say that there is. No. I feel like I hit the important components. Most importantly, that women know that they need to have a plan, a comprehensive plan, that includes all the things from market risk to protection planning. That would be whether it be life insurance or long-term care, things of that nature, talking about income planning, taxation, and what that's going to look like in their future. And then just, reminding them there's really great things that are going on in the lives of women. Certainly the pandemic it's set us back, plain and simple. Women got hit the hardest, especially mothers, because they bore the weight of kids having to go home and now having to be a teacher and not being an employee for a lot of them. And so that's definitely setting us back a bit. But no, I can't say that there's anything looking back on it that I wish would be in there. I really felt that I've tackled the important topics without going too deep into any one subject. I would say it's kind of like 100-level view. It's really the foundational pieces to then get more educated on the specifics.
All right. And when you were writing the book, you had a specific type of woman in mind for the lessons in the book?
I did. It was the women that I talked to that came to my hundreds of events that we were having. I mean, we've been marketing for more than 20 years, doing dinner seminars and things of that nature. So it was the women that I would talk to after my event that would tell me that, I receive invitations to come to dinner seminars for financial advisors, 2-3 times a week. But the only reason I came to this one that you're giving is because it said it was for women only. And so there was this very different feel of a woman who would come to a traditional event where it was open for anybody, couples, singles, everybody in the room, men, women, versus one that just had women only in it. And I was seeing that there was a really big difference, that there was a lot of women who were just afraid to be in a financial seminar until they got this opportunity where they knew that all the people they were going to be sitting with were women. And then it just provided this safe space. So it was really more that woman, the woman that's perfectly capable. She might be a salesman of IBM. I remember meeting a gal who was there, but yet still was terrified about her own financial picture, or nurse, or doctors, or, entrepreneurs, or very successful people. But the financial aspect, they just had not really looked at head on. And so it created a lot of fear and shame and trepidation. And that's the woman I want to reach, because there are a lot of them.
And I guess one of the things is you have to realize that you need help, that you have a problem that needs to be solved. And often it's human nature just to go into denial. How do you deal with somebody in denial?
Yeah. Certainly.
So how do you deal with that person?
Oh, how do you deal with it? Yeah, it is about that. That's why I would say I'm here to inspire first. I think when it comes from a perspective first of let's not make it so scary. Let's just paint the picture of the concept of what are the pieces that we need to be looking at? What are the pieces that you currently have, but you just don't understand how they work together. So I speak from this perspective of holistic planning. So I talk about microclimates. That's one of the things that I talk about in my book, that oftentimes, and I see this across the board, but people have a very disconnected view of what their financial picture looks like. They might talk to an investment advisor. They might talk to the 401k person at their company, or they're going to go in and talk to their CPA or accountant. And then maybe they've got their insurance person on the other side. But yet all those pieces and those individuals are not collectively talking. It's not cohesive. And so people are planning all disconnected. So what's so important for women and men to understand is that you've got to see all those pieces together, because when you understand how taxation is going to affect you long-term throughout your retirement, when you understand where income is going to be coming from, not just Social Security, when you understand these pieces, it takes a lot of the scariness out of financial planning. And so it makes a picture that you might think, as an individual, you might think I'm in a terrible place. I'm never going to be able to retire. But when a good financial planner can actually bring all those pieces together, so many times, Kerry, I'm shocked at how vast majority of the time, the picture is way better than what she thought it would be. Way better than what she thought it would be, because she just didn't know how to see these pieces together. And she's listening to what her neighbor says or her coworker or what she's seeing on TV commercials of how much you have to save in order to retire. And so it's just wiping all of that out and being able to look at all these pieces together. And then how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, just going from, what is the first thing to tackle that is is going to make the biggest impact, and then just slowly moving through things in a sequential order.
Hey, makes total sense, and sounds like you're really onto something here, Arwen. People want to find out more about you, connect with you on the web. Where do you go?
Yeah, you can go to our retirement planning website, beckerretirement.com. We are here to help anybody to be able to talk through, be able to give you some direction, or certainly further than that if we want to actually start working together and pulling some of these pieces out, but any sort of direction that we can give that way. And then you can find me on social media, Arwen Becker, on Instagram and Facebook. And then I also train financial advisors how to really excel in women's events and, being entrepreneurs as well. And that's my training company, lifewitharwen.com. Life is an acronym: Leaders Inspiring Female and Financial Empowerment.
All right. Well, it sounds fascinating. It sounds like it's really going to help a lot of women who really think you've run out of options, but you still have plenty. You always got to remember the fear is always worse than the reality. Well, almost always. And got any questions for Arwen, myself, just send an email to my email address, kl@kerrylutz.com. Make sure you sign up for our free newsletter, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. And Arwen, appreciate you coming on. Great luck with the book, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Kerry. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.